Where the lush hills of Kashmir erupt into the Himalayas, these soldiers have been waging a war almost unknown to the world for more than 5 years. Pakistan and India, two nations supposedly at peace, are fighting each other and the elements for control of the most dangerous and inhospitable terrain on Earth.
Site 1095.
In a frozen wasteland of no economic value, the conflict is costing hundreds of lives each year and at least $1 billion so far. Yet it's a price both countries are willing to pay.
Any part of a country, may it be a desert, may it be this kind of territory, every inch is very, very dear to us. And we don't mind whether we are on top of mountains or glaciers or at any high altitude. There is no sacrifice too much big for the defense of our motherland.
The root of this conflict is the 1949 ceasefire line in Kashmir, which was never drawn through these forgotten wastes. Both sides accepted the omission because of the remoteness of the area. In 1984, all that changed. That year, the first gunfire broke the icy solitude. India had moved onto the Siachen Glacier, and Pakistan was outraged.
I would say this war has been imposed us by the Indians. It's a stupid war that they've enforced upon us by coming to this area, violating all the treaties and things. This area was a zone of peace. There was, what to talk of soldiers, there were no human beings here.
Ever since those first shots, over 10,000 troops have maintained a frozen stalemate. At altitudes where every step is a breathtaking struggle, infantry attacks are almost impossible. Instead, artillery force the pace of this war. Artillery fire is a daily occurrence on both sides of the conflict from posts like these surrounding the disputed Siachen Glacier. These troops are firing at their Indian counterparts less than 7 miles away over the Saltoro Ridge. But because the mountains are in the way, direct hits are rare, and shelling is not the main killer of this war. 4 out of 5 corpses flown from the battlefield are victims of an environment where man was never meant to survive. Of today's casualties, one met his death in a glacial river, the other in an Indian artillery attack. At 18,000 feet, this man's only chance of survival is pure oxygen to stave off suffocation or brain damage.
Most dangerous diseases or problems of this area or high altitude is the pulmonary edema and the cerebral edema. And third one you can say is the frostbite.
You see, this is, as I said, must be the hardest and the highest battleground in the world. The terrain conditions are very rugged. Temperatures during summers go down to minus 20 to 25, and during winter it goes down to minus 50. And when there are blizzards and wind chill, it goes down further to minus 65. So you can imagine the kind of isolation, the kind of remoteness, and the weather condition, terrain condition. It makes this battlefield so much unique in the world.
The Baltoro Glacier, previously visited only by mountaineers, the head of the glacier is now the front line. Troops have dug in here, determined that no ground should be lost to the Indians now that talks are underway. For soldiers from the sweltering plains of southern Pakistan, it's an awesome and alien environment. Soldiers are pulled back to camp after 4 weeks at over 20,000 feet. They recover in cramped fiberglass igloos, their 1,000-pound snowsuits blackened by paraffin heating stoves. In this war, costs have escalated as high as the peaks being fought over. At more than $1 million a day, neither economy can take the strain for much longer.
This is the Llama, the world's only high-altitude helicopter. They're designed by the French and used by both sides in the conflict here. though behind me, on Indian-held Siachen, they call them cheetahs. These pilots have to navigate through very narrow valleys and fly altitudes of more than 20,000 feet. But gunfire at the helicopters is very rare, and it seems that there's a consensus on both sides not to escalate the conflict into the air.
But in this war, control of the peaks is what counts. In May, both sides raced to establish a post on a 22,000-foot peak above the Chumik Glacier. While an Indian company climbed the rocky ridge, seen here on the right, 2 Pakistan officers were airlifted direct to the peak. Enduring an icy blast equivalent to minus 70 degrees, the 2 were dropped on the summit from where they repelled the Indian attack. Behind such desperate exploits, the wider tragedy of a separated Kashmir continues. In the valleys further south, the ceasefire line still divides communities with a fragile peace.
Well, you could say that right in front are the Indians. On the left spur there are the Indians, but then we are occupying position in front of them. Likewise, on the right spur there are the Indians, and we are occupying position on the front of them. So, you know, we are face to face, eye to eye, as a matter of fact. And at times their cattle are killed, at times young girls, women are killed, and then at that time our soldiers get upset, and occasionally we do shoot at each other.
On the Indian side, villagers have been rehoused away from the ceasefire line. On the Pakistan side, they remain and suffer the consequences.
मेरा नाम दीन मोहम्मद है और असी इंडिया के साथ उधर बाउंड्री में रहते हैं। हमारा माल मवेशी जो है वो इंडिया ले जाती है, तो मेरे बच्चे हैं इधर, वो ला के बाज़ार में जाता है तो और असी घर से बाहर जाते हैं और गोली चला देते हैं, वो नहीं असन निकल देते।
उसके अलावा क्या बात कि औरतों को पकड़ कर ले जाते हैं। कोई भी मर्द सामने 4-5 घंटे हो जाएं, या कोई मर जाए या कोई खुशी गमी हो जाए, मतलब जिसको शादी बोलते हैं हम लोग उर्दू में, वो फायर कर देते हैं।
United Nations observers confirmed that several children have been shot dead by Indian troops. Leading the campaign for a plebiscite is President of Pakistan Kashmir, Sada Khan.
We wish to settle the issue through peaceful means, political means, on the basis, of course, which has been determined by the United Nations. That is one option. And the other option is local uprising and a fight and a war of liberation, you may call it. I would call it jihad or whatever it is. You see, the bloodshed, you cannot avert or avoid bloodshed if it goes on like this for an indefinite period. And if once the bloodshed starts, then we don't know who will be able to stop it.
In Islamabad, the frustration begins to show. On the occasion of Rajiv Gandhi's first bilateral visit to Pakistan, demonstrators protest to United Nations officials at the failure to hold the promised plebiscite in Kashmir.
And we have even sat back for 42 years, and we have seen the rape of Kashmir economically, but now the innocent Kashmiri Muslim women are raped. Now we cannot sit back and wait, and until and unless United Nations do something about it, this game will go out of our hands. And I think this will not only a problem for United Nations, this will not be only a problem in this area, but for the entire world.
Despite the first thaw in Indo-Pak relations since their parents signed the 1971 Simla Agreement, the issue that still divides today's leaders is Kashmir. Now that democracy has returned to Pakistan, what is preventing you both from holding a plebiscite in Kashmir?
The question of plebiscite in Kashmir, from our point of view, is totally out. There was a Simla agreement which replaced all other earlier talks on Kashmir. In Jammu and Kashmir, that's the Indian part of Kashmir, there have been a number of elections voting for the central government and voting for the local government.
We have two differing perceptions on the question of Kashmir and these two differing positions are also spelled out in the Simla Agreement, and that is why it is a matter which is still to be worked out between the two countries.
At the same press conference, both Prime Ministers quashed recent speculation of an early ceasefire on the Siachen.
The problems in Siachen are very complicated and they cannot be resolved instantly. There are a number of steps that need to be taken. There is the military disengagement process, then there is the civil process which has to follow. We have been talking about this. I feel progress has been good. We would like to accelerate the pace of talks, and I hope we'll be able to do that soon.
2 weeks later, the cordiality of the summit meeting had been replaced by the reality of mountain warfare. The Kunduz Glacier, just 4 kilometers from the Indian-held Siachen. 42 years of mutual distrust are vented in a major battle. Over the next hour, more than 300 high-explosive shells will be exchanged. Despite the intensity of this typical battle, many have set their sights on a ceasefire by the year end. Both Prime Ministers are hungry for a foreign policy success. For Benazir Bhutto, it would be her first. But the most serious obstacle for each of them is their domestic opposition. Neither can afford to concede an inch of territory. Even if these guns fall silent, the Kashmir ceasefire line is still a short fuse to violence.
We will fight till the last drop of blood is there in our veins. And we'll fight for success and for the glory of our country. Our country is very dear to us. Our morale is as high as the mountains are.
Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Hayy